What the?
Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. Sleep mode, you know? No?
Toy Story 5 arrives 31 years after a cowboy doll and a space ranger argued about a bedroom window, and it's still asking the same question. What happens to the things you love when the world moves on? This time, the answer comes in the form of a frog-shaped tablet named LilyPad, Bonnie's new favorite thing, the center of her digital universe, and the most credible threat the toys have faced since Andy's attic. But what makes Toy Story 5 work isn't the conflict between analog and digital. It's that the film refuses to resolve it cleanly. LilyPad isn't a villain, the toys aren't wrong, and Bonnie isn't broken. She's 8 years old in 2026, which means she's growing up exactly as the world intends.
What the film is really doing is completing a circle it started drawing in 1999. Jessie, the cowgirl who spent decades on a shelf after her first owner grew up and forgot her, is now watching it happen again. Andrew Stanton, the director of WALL-E, the writer of every Toy Story, puts her at the center, and the result is the most emotionally precise entry in a franchise that has always known exactly where to press. It's a film about obsolescence, grief, and the stubborn persistence of love, about what we leave behind in the people who loved us, about whether play is worth defending, and who has to do the defending. Toy Story 5 doesn't answer all of those questions, but it knows which ones matter.
What?
Nothing. Love the poncho.
Someone needs a brown marker.
Wow, look what Bonnie's done with the place. She really let things go.
Oh, my.
Every Toy Story film is secretly the same film. Something arrives, a new toy, a new owner, a new life, and the question becomes whether there's still room for you in it. In 1995, it was Buzz threatening Woody's spot on the shelf. In 2010, it was the looming certainty of college. Now, it's a tablet. And the threat isn't personal, it's structural. LilyPad doesn't want to replace the toys, she just does more. That's the bleaker argument, and the film is brave enough to sit with it.
Main systems on! Main engines! 1, 2, and 3! All systems go! 5, 4, 3, 2, 1! Blast off!
The Iron Giant came out in 1999, the same year as Toy Story 2, and it's asking a version of the same question from the other side of the mirror. Brad Bird's film is about a massive robot that falls from space into small-town Maine and is taught, slowly and painfully, that it doesn't have to be what it was built to be. The giant was manufactured as a weapon. Every instinct it has, every encoded directive, points toward destruction. But a kid named Hogarth Hughes decides it's something else, and the giant improbably agrees. What connects it to Toy Story's master theme isn't the robot, it's the world around the robot. The military doesn't see a lost machine trying to figure itself out, they see a threat to be neutralized. The Iron Giant maps the exact same social mechanics that Toy Story 5 is working through, the tendency to define things by their function, and the grief of being rendered redundant by something you can't argue with. Hogarth's belief in the giant is the same bet Jessie is making on Bonnie. The connection isn't just a feature, and it can't be replicated by whatever's newer and shinier. The film's final act delivers one of the most efficient emotional gut punches in animation history, built from the exact same material as every Toy Story climax. The terrible cost of being needed, and the extraordinary thing that happens when you choose to pay it anyway. You are what you choose to be. From the toy's anxiety about the world outside to the wound one toy has been carrying since 1999, Jessie's abandonment by Emily is the franchise's oldest unresolved grief, and Toy Story 5 finally closes the loop. Not by undoing the loss, but by revealing what the loss left behind. Emily didn't forget. She named her daughter after the toy she gave away. That's the film's most devastating move, and it works because Stanton understands something about grief that most films don't. The mark you leave isn't always where you were looking.
我以为他死了，我最后一次见到他。
Egon's Long Day's Journey into Night is a Chinese noir from 2018 that barely resembles a conventional film. A man returns to the city of Kaili to find a woman from his past, or the memory of her, and the film gradually dismantles the boundary between remembering and dreaming. The second half plays as an unbroken hour-long take in 3D, shot to feel like a descent into the unconscious. You're not watching a story about loss, you're inside the architecture of it.
The connection to Toy Story 5 isn't stylistic, it's structural. Both works are about returning to a place that holds the shape of someone who's gone. Jessie returns to Emily's childhood home not knowing what she'll find, only knowing that the wound is still there. Bygone's protagonist makes the same journey, not toward resolution, but toward the act of remembering itself, as if being present in the right place might make the past legible. In both cases, the revelation isn't that the love was reciprocated, it's that it left a physical mark, a carved tree, a daughter's name, something that says, you were here, and it mattered. Long Day's Journey into Night is one of the most visually singular films of the last decade, but its real achievement is emotional. It treats grief not as something to be processed and moved past, but as a landscape you have to learn to navigate. Jessie would understand that entirely.
Begon's film gives grief a physical geography. Toy Story 5 gives it a digital one, a social network called The Pond, a group chat, a screen that glows in the dark while Bonnie uses it past her bedtime. The film doesn't demonize Lily Pad. It asks a harder question. What does connection cost when it's this easy? What does play lose when it's always also communication, also performance, also the management of how you appear to other 8-year-olds? M.T. Anderson asked a version of that question in 2002, and he wasn't gentle about the answer.
When we got off the ship, our feeds were going fugue with all the banners. The hotels were jumping on each other, and there was bump from like the casinos and mudslides and the gift shops and places where you could rent extra arms.
Feed is a young adult novel set in a future where the internet has been surgically installed in every American's brain at birth. It's called The Feed. It curates your desires, anticipates your needs, targets your impulses, and never, ever switches off. The protagonist is a teenager who has never experienced silence. He doesn't know what boredom feels like. He meets a girl who does, who has partial feed access, who can still think in the gaps. And the novel turns on what that difference costs her. Anderson's target isn't technology per se. It's the monetization of attention. The way a system designed to connect you gradually becomes the thing that defines you, until you can't tell the difference between what you want and what you've been sold. Lilypad's in-film social network, The Pond, is a children's version of exactly this, a curated digital space that promises belonging and delivers dependency. Bonnie isn't addicted to the tablet. She's addicted to the feeling of being included, and the tablet has figured out how to supply it on demand. Feed was published 3 years before the first iPhone. It reads like a document from the future that arrived early, took one look around, and decided to start taking notes. The voice is deliberately flat, the consumerist slang aged into the prose like sediment. It's not a comfortable book. It's the book that Toy Story 5 is, at its core, worried about. Feed asks what happens to imagination when it's always mediated. Toy Story 5 asks who still fights for it. Jessie's job, her entire purpose, the thing she's been doing since she first showed up in Bonnie's room, is to be the invitation to play. Not the content of play, the invitation. The thing that says, here's a space. Fill it with whatever you want. You don't need a screen for that. You just need someone willing to hold the space open. Spirited Away is about a 10-year-old girl who falls into a spirit world while her parents are turned into pigs and has to work in a bathhouse to survive long enough to get them back. That's the plot.
What it actually is a film about what children are capable of when the adults have abdicated, when the world stops protecting the space of childhood and a kid has to protect it herself. Chihiro doesn't start the film as someone who can do any of this. She's sulky, scared, and deeply unimpressed with her new house in the woods. By the end, she's negotiated with spirits, outwitted a witch, and crossed a flooded plain on a train that runs underwater. What changes isn't her circumstances, it's that she stops waiting for someone to tell her what to do and starts playing, using the logic of imagination, treating the spirit world the way a child treats a backyard fort, as a space governed by rules she can learn and use. Miyazaki builds the film as a sustained argument that childhood imagination is not a phase to be grown out of. It's a muscle. And like all muscles, it atrophies when you don't use it. The bathhouse is weird and maximalist and frequently terrifying, but it's also an invitation. Come in, engage, figure out how it works. That's the same bet Jessie is making every time she pitches up in Bonnie's room, hat on, rope ready. The world is interesting. Pay attention to it. You don't need lily pad for that. Spirited Away trusts children with the complexity of the world. Toy Story 5's final argument is quieter, that even after the child grows up and the world changes and the toys end up in a donation box, something remains. Not the toy, the mark the toy left. This is what the franchise has been building toward for 30 years. Not a happy ending, but an honest one. And the most honest thing it has to say is that love doesn't disappear when it stops being reciprocated. It just changes address.
You're the only friend I've ever had. You're going to die and I can't stop it. It's true for everyone.
Station 11 is an HBO series about an itinerant Shakespeare troupe performing in the aftermath of a flu pandemic that has collapsed civilization. It's structured as a mosaic, past and present interlocked, characters connected across decades by a self-published graphic novel called Station 11, which most of them have never read and one of them made. The show's thesis is stated plainly in the motto of the Traveling Symphony: survival is insufficient. The connection to Toy Story 5 isn't the apocalypse, it's the object. Station 11, the graphic novel, functions exactly the way Jessie functions. It's a thing that was made with love, in private, without any certainty that it would reach anyone. It circulates anyway. It shapes people who never met the person who created it. It becomes a point of connection between strangers across a devastated world. The woman who made it never knew it did any of this.
That's the discovery Jessie makes at the carved tree. She didn't know Emily remembered her. She didn't know the love left a mark. She'd been operating on the assumption that the shelf was the end of the story, that being outgrown was a kind of death. Station 11 argues with tremendous warmth and no sentimentality that the things we make and love and pass on keep traveling long after we've lost sight of them. They find the people who need them. They do their work in the dark. The toys were never just toys. That's been true since 1995. Toy Story 5 finally says it out loud. 5 things Toy Story 5 is underneath the one thing it looks like. A film about purpose that's also about grief, about childhood that's also about obsolescence, about a cowgirl who thought she'd been forgotten and the tree that proved otherwise. If it got to you, here's where to go next.